and other interested persons into the chamber. So Mr. President, I rise the second motion moved by the leader that this Senate do receive in the chamber, suspend its rules, the standing rules to admit the nominees that another interested person, this Senate particularly the chairman receive of the second largest chamber, suspend its rules, standing rules, the chambers, the nominees the chairman receive of the second largest chamber, suspend rules, standing rules, the chambers.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir. The Committee of the Holy said.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, the first nominee we have was this morning is Honorable Rotimi Amaechi. Honorable Rotimi Amaechi, you're welcome. We have your CV. We want you to give us a brief introduction of yourself. If there's areas in your CV that you want to highlight, or there are parts that have been omitted, please tell us. And then after that, take a few questions. Areas in your CV that you want to highlight, or there are parts that have been omitted, please tell us. And then after that, take a few questions. Areas in your CV that you want to highlight, or there are parts that have been omitted, please tell us. And then after that, take a few questions.
Distinguished Senator Tango, who happened to be my former commissioner. distinguished Senator Tango Dozo, who happens to be my former commissioner. Distinguished Senator Tango Dozo, who happens to be my former commissioner. Senator Tango Dozo, who happens to be my former commissioner. Good morning, distinguished senators. It's a rare pleasure to stand before you. And believe me, this is my first time of addressing the Senate. I thank you. I thank the President for this privilege. Whether I become a minister or not, this will go in the history book for mine that I once addressed the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But truly, at the mercy of the Senate, I thank the President. And you know, they have this privilege. And I'm whether I become a minister or not, this will go in the history book for mine that I once addressed the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But truly, at the mercy of the Senate, for what I think will be a kind of contributions that I have made to the development of Nigeria. I have told you earlier, my name is Shehuri, I'm truly in Nigeria. But and I said to you, I think from me, a kind of contributions that I have made to the development of Nigeria. But then I was speaker of the I told you earlier, my name is Shehuri, I'm truly in Nigeria. I was chairman of the conference of speakers, and I said to you, I think and I had the privilege of also serving as the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum for 10 years. Take it together, whether as governor or as speaker, these two career paths tell the story as the chairman, during my tenure as speaker of the Legislative Assembly, we achieved a lot. Some key bills were passed like the anti-kidnapping law and the University Schools Right. In this bill, and I drafted this bill myself. I felt pain that my children couldn't go to school. And I had to ensure that by this bill that became a law, that children, parents, and teachers had their rights and privileges, and the government had obligations to fulfill. However, my most fulfilling moment as speaker was the passage of the University Schools Right bill. This bill clearly illustrated and defined the responsibilities of parents, teachers, and children to guarantee our children access to qualitative education. Education is not only qualitative, it must also be accessible. As governor, we inherited a state that was comatose and in the throes of insecurity. Rivers State fought lines of the Niger Delta militancy. Our immediate task was therefore to restore security and improve social and economic well-being of our people. Ours was a two-pronged approach of physical and physical security. By physical, I mean putting money in the hands of the Rivers people. Whilst we confronted criminality and aggressive law enforcement measures, we embarked on what we call massive social and infrastructural development, the idea for the record purposes. We declared an emergency in education and guaranteed free and compulsory education up to secondary school level. During my tenure as governor, we awarded the construction of some over 500 primary schools, and we completed and furnished 314 of these to 100% completion. While others especially completed by the time we left office in May 2019. We undertook the training and re-certification of teachers already in the service of DT and employed over 13,200 teachers. Our efforts and investment in the education sector did not go unnoticed, as Port Harcourt won UNESCO World Capital in 2014. We competed against cities like Moscow and Oxford. In the area of healthcare, it's on record that our government built 140 health centers. And we employed a total of 400 medical doctors. When we came, there were only 200 doctors in the implement of the government. And we had to employ 400 doctors. Anyone who visits Port Harcourt will testify to the fact that we work to bring back the old glory of Harcourt as the garden city and as the third leg in the economic tripod of Nigeria. We built a dualized network of 1,500 kilometers of road, and they are therefore to see 23 bridges, 2 major flyovers, and 2 interchanges. In the area of power, of the 350 megawatts total capacity accessed by the government for hours, only 700 megawatts and equivalent of about 20% work. So we ramped it up to 7%, and we introduced our own 360 megawatts power, bringing us to 750 megawatts power from the left office. And this power was an example of the Greenfield Generation Project at AFAM. That massive investment is part of the reason why today residents of Port Harcourt enjoy nearly 4 hours power supply. On the whole, Mr. President, I say with pride that during our stewardship activities, we consistently maintain our pledge to our people to render transparent and accountable stewardship. Our government happens to be the first to introduce as a state government public procurement law, by which all purchases will go to public procurement. To guarantee that not deviate from that pledge, we are the first state to pass a fiscal responsibility law, and that is also on record. We adapted the fiscal responsibility law of the government, and the University of Public Procurement law. Both laws stem from executive view, and we are pleased that we maintain our stance on surrendering the power of the governor to award contracts until the end of tenure. Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished senators, it is therefore fair to say that under my leadership as governor of River State, we redefine governance and reposition River State as a destination choice to live, work, and do business. Accordingly, Mr. President of the Senate, distinguished senators, I give you my word that if I'm confirmed as minister by this distinguished Senate, I bring to bear my past experience as a legislator, as a speaker, and governor in the execution of my duties. Thank you very much.
Point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I come from this one. My name is Joseph Babu. By God, the minority leader of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Yes, Senate. My point of order is under order 43. And the indulgence of the Senate President, I would like to read. Order 43. Read. By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, the Senator may make personal explanation, although there may be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may decide, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. My eyes. Mr. President, I don't intend to bring any controversial issue. And I want to give the indulgence to point out that the PDP senators and the caucus seated here will not have any question for the nominee, because we have just received the report of the public function bordering on issues on fraud, corruption, and all sorts of things from the committee. And we are yet looking into we have not debated that board at all. And so we will have literally nothing to ask the nominee. Is that the decision of the PDP? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Nazif.
Thank you, Mr.
Point of order.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Mr. Chairman, my point of order is basically on order. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, 53. Mr. Chairman, my point of order 53.9 is basically on by the positions and by the grace of God that I occupy 53 Mr. Chairman, guide my point of order. The committee report has been laid by a committee that we assigned to do the job of ethics and privileges. And the procedure is after laying, we will make copies of that report. This is a confirmation hearing. It does not stop the confirmation hearing. But we are glad that you are saying that you are not asking the nominee question. We might as well, as the speaker and the former governor, ask the nominee, take a bow and go.
Order, please.
That was actually
Order, please. Distinguished colleagues, Minority Leader, you have not been recognized by the Senate President. Distinguished colleagues, order please. Order please.
Mr. President, the leader has spoken. And by implication, the leader is saying that today, that the Senate should have a rule that every nominee should bow and go. The Senate,
Order, please. Please let the minority leader speak. Order, please.
What we said, Mr. President, please let me explain. Maybe the leader did not hear me well. We are not saying that you cannot ask questions. You can ask questions, but we are saying.
Order, please. Order, please.
Mr. President. Mr. President.
Leader.
Mr. Chairman.
It's good. The association is good.
Mr. Chairman and distinguished colleagues.
Yes.
As I said, I raise two orders. One is my responsibility as the majority leader. Two, on that order that I raise. The gentleman you see here as a nominee, it's my responsibility to market him here before the Senate. You people that are given the privilege to ask questions, you said, no, okay,
You say, these people, you don't know these people. Who is these people? Who is these people?
Order.
Who is these people?
Minority leader, please put off your minds.
Leader, sit down.
You are saying who is these people?
Distinguished colleagues.
He has to withdraw that statement.
Distinguished colleagues.
Who are these people?
He has distinguished.
He has to withdraw the statement. He has to withdraw the statement.
The minority.
Let him withdraw the statement. He has to withdraw the statement.
Hello. Distinguished.
Mr. Chairman. What?
Leaders. Minority leader. Sit down. Please sit down. Sit down. Distinguished senators. Distinguished colleagues, please, order. I think the Senate leader has already retracted that, so don't let us, yes, he did. And I think I'm also saying on his behalf, so let us leave that.
Has he apologized?
Minority leader, he has retracted that. Now let us move. You, minority leader, got up to speak on behalf that he doesn't have any questions. That is fine. We have noted that. Now, as we agreed in our previous screening of early after the first case of senators who have come and gone, who have been here before. That there must be some kind of respect to senators or those who have served in the legislative arm. And we have always ensured that even for those, we would have some kind of dialogue. So let us meet and stick to those issues. So what I would suggest, I would direct is, as I was directing, I'd call Senator Nazif to speak if he has any comments or questions. And we just give them the what we have always given to those who have served in the legislative arm of the government. And I think we'll maintain that consistency.
Order, please. Order, please.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Suleiman Nazif, and I represent Bauchi North. Mr. Ministerial nominee, you're welcome to the Senate. Having been a former PA, SA, Speaker for 8 years, Governor for 8 years, DG presidential campaign that saw the victory of the All Progressive Congress in Nigeria. Is that the motto of the Senate?
Order, please.
That makes you a grounded politician, a politician who has had a very challenging career. Mr. Nominee, how can you tell this Senate, and indeed Nigerians, what advice do you have for upcoming politicians to hold on to their cherished views, beliefs, and ideals, despite heavy political opponents and dangerous political enemies?
Senator Tayo Lashadra.
I'm not finished.
Oh, sorry.
Number two, you have been a grounded politician who has tested the legislature as well as the executive. This question is on behalf of all Nigerian ministerial nominees from 1999 till date. Can you tell this Senate what is the merit and the demerit of sending ministerial nominees to the Senate from 1999 till date without portfolios? Nigerians have lamented, agonized, and it is fast becoming controversial. If you are confirmed as a minister, would you continue to suggest that ministerial nominees come to the Senate without portfolio? Are the executive making the work of the legislature easier by sending ministers without portfolio? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Danjuma Goje.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed Danjuma Goje, representing Gombe Central and Gombe State. As a former governor, like myself, and a governor of one of the oil producing states, there's this problem of you people want more allocation from federation account. In addition to the 13% reservation, amnesty, Ministry of Niger Delta. But whenever we ask you to account for what you get hostile. The minority leader is here, the two of you really led the fight. You don't want to account for what you get, but you want more. Now that you are living in Niger Delta, you are coming to the center. Do you still hold this view? Secondly, if you are confirmed as a minister, and if Mr. President decides to post you to the Ministry of Niger Delta, there is this controversial project the East-West Road, which you have condemned the former minister, particularly Orubabe, for his inability to do that road. If you are posted to that ministry, what would you do differently to ensure that you complete that project? Thank you.
Then Taya Lashadra.
My name is Senator Tayo Alasho Adura, representing Ondo Central at the Senate. I have only one question to the nominee, and the question borders on the fact that you were made the chairman of the Governors Forum for the first time, and during the second time, there were a lot of controversies. And one of the people who contested with you at that period is here today as a senator. I want to know, sir, whether you actually believed that figure 19 is greater than figure 16. Thank you, sir.
Rotimi Amaechi.
Your Excellencies, distinguished senators, the last question from Senator Lashayadu is the most difficult one for me. Why I say it's the most difficult one is that I don't know what I will say that will annoy my colleagues and brothers on the side of PDP. When I woke up this morning, I woke up on the bright side. As a Christian, I prayed, and I sought to wear a cloth I've never worn before. So I wore this, believing that in the spirit of peace, I will answer questions that will be very peaceful. I will start with that question, even though I would like to jump to the first one after the last one. The Governors Forum acted as a check to executive recklessness. The Senate President was the chairman and aided with other governors who are here, including Goji and others, to make me the chairman of the Governors Forum for the first time, and it happened in Kwara. And we checked the excesses, including the expenditure of the oil subsidy. There is a case in court up till now, stopping the federal government from drawing money from the federation account to fund oil subsidy. Because we believe that if they stop the federal government from drawing state and local government money, the federal government may not be able to bear the cost and would therefore remove oil subsidy because of the level of corruption. Unfortunately, the case is yet to be heard. Then I think, and that's why I say it is linked to the first question. I think that the radical posture of the Governors Forum led to the former president asking me that I have turned the Governors Forum into a union. He says it's no longer Governors Forum, it's now a trade union. And all we are doing is defend the rights of the people of Nigeria and ensure that the money accruable to the country was judiciously utilized. I think the former president didn't like it. He didn't like it. And when my tenure expired as the chairman, I was requested not to run for a second term. And I felt that as a Nigerian, I had the responsibility to exercise my right as a governor. So I put myself forward for the election. And if you saw the forces against me, you will actually think that I will lose. Let me quote my brother, and in fact, my elder brother and friend, Senator, His Excellency Jang. He said, but Northeast Zone supported me, Northwest Zone supported me, North Central Zone supported me, South supported me, Southeast supported me. So how did you win? You did not win. It's 16 versus 19. I said, but I won. I have the 19 votes. And the rest appears to be history. But the basic reason why that happened is because of the radical posture we took. Let me jump to the first question because it's quite interesting. The first question has been quite difficult in my political career. It's been quite difficult in my political career. The reason why it's been difficult is that I was born to test my rights and fight for my rights. I was once a student union leader. And believe me, If there's one man who doesn't like corruption, I don't like corruption. I had come here with a copy of the so-called panel report. There is nowhere the panel indicted me. Nowhere. Not the government white paper. I came with the report itself. Nowhere the report indicted me. And I'm ready to tender this report before the Senate. Nowhere, I repeat, nowhere it indicted me. I was ready for questions for it, and I brought the panel report so that the Senate will be opportune to read the panel report and compare it or juxtapose it with the report of the white paper released by the government. However, because there are challenges, people in Nigerian politics believe that there is a need for compromise and able to manage yourself around. I will do that. But where it clashes with my principle, I find it a bit difficult to do what people expect me to do. So if you ask me to advise upcoming politicians, I will find it difficult. Because most politicians would like to survive. So because I don't toe that line, I found challenges. October 25, declared me governor. Don't forget that I face a similar challenge like I'm facing now. I was chased out of the country to Ghana. My family was chased out of the country. We were living in one room with my children just because I stood for my rights. But God and the Supreme Court found it worthy to declare that I will be governor of Rivers State, and I became governor of Rivers State. We are back to the same October. The same October. Today is 22nd. I hope that before the 25th or on the 25th, this Senate will find me qualified to be the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I thank Senator Nafiz for the question. Portfolio issue, it is a constitutional matter. You have powers to do whatever you want to do. The Attorney General in my former boss's government once told the governor, Dr. Peter Dele, you know, whatever the state says you are, that's what you are. If they say you're a woman, you are a woman. You may be like a man, but if they say you're a woman, you're a woman. So if the legislature wants ministers to be nominated with portfolio, then they so make that amendment in the Constitution. If it's not there in the Constitution, then the president can only apply his powers as allowed to him by the Constitution. Would I, as a former legislator, be happy? I'll be glad if I see a list with portfolios. That way, everybody knows where he's going. For instance, you don't know where I'm going, so you don't know whether to ask me about my expertise in education or my expertise in health or my expertise in Niger Delta, like he did ask. That's my position on that. For my colleague and brother, my former colleague and brother, because now he's a senator and I'm not. I remember one day we had a conversation, Senator Goji and I. He came banging to my house and was very angry with me. And I said, after he finished shouting at me, I said, please, respect me, I'm a governor. He said, have you been a minister before? Have you been a senator before? So I'm pursuing his record. I want to be a minister now. After that, I want to be a senator. I'll tell you the story. He wanted the president to come to his state for campaign, and I was choked with the program. He didn't even know that behind him, I had canvassed for the president to go to Gombe, and I had put it on the program for the president to go to Gombe. I don't know who told him that I did not. So he came banging, very angry, and he had abused me enough, and I thought to him, I said, please respect me, I'm a governor. He told me, have you been a minister before? Have you been a senator before? I'm a senator of the Federal Republic. Even at that, I'm a senior governor. I say you are a former governor. Okay, then, if you followed me after we visited Germany, you will know that my views changed slightly. What was my former view? I believe that the resources, my former view, I believe that the resources are in the Niger Delta and their fair share is necessary. You shouldn't deny them that. That's why there is militancy. I believe that if you don't address social justice, the country will not be the same. When we moved to Germany and I saw how they raised their funds, I felt, therefore, that our dependence on these natural resources is unnecessary. And I believe that we should draw a poverty line. Any state that does not have, let's say, for instance, that no state will collect anything less than 5 billion from the national revenue. If any state goes below 5 billion, all of us should contribute to make sure that state gets up to 5 billion. That's my new view. That's my new position on that. What else did you ask? If I become Minister of Niger Delta, in fact, East-West Road is not just for Niger Delta. It's an economic road that leads to economic prosperity for Nigeria. If I become the Minister for Niger Delta, that will be the first road to be completed. Thank you very much.
Shehuri, representing Kaduna Central. I acknowledge your contribution and sacrifice to change revolution. I have two questions. First of all, whatever you say here, we've listened to millions of people who think and outside of Nigeria. And whatever you said here should be in record for this generation, the future generation. Now, I want to speak to the first question of this. What is your recipe for peace between ministers and state governors? Yes. Taking cognizance of the events in Rivers years ago, as you are going to be confirmed as a minister. And secondly, can you define from your own view what corruption is all about? According to Karl Klaus, said prostitution is worse than corruption. The former endangers the morals of an individual, and the latter endangers the morale of an entire country. So can you, in your own view, define what corruption is all about? Thank you.
Senator Wamaku.
The Senate President, my colleagues, the nominees. My names are Aliyu Maga Takada Wamaku. I hope you can remember that name. Representing Sokoto's Central Constituency of Sokoto State.
Thank you.
Mr. Nominee, one of us who formed a pressure group as governors to go around the country meeting our elders and leaders, advocating for good governance, transparency, and rule of law. We also stood firmly on the belief that in the 21st century, Nigerians should, first and foremost, understand that our diversity should be a source of strength and not otherwise. If eventually confirmed, which I'm confident we are going to be confirmed, what will you do in your first 100 days? Set up an example of those of us in that group. That the unity we are yearning for, that the rule of law we believe in, that the good governance work the Nigerians are yearning for has really or is being realized by the new dispensations. Thank you.
Senator Gume.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Abdullahi Gumel. I represent Jigawa Northwest. I have one question which is political. I wanted to ask the nominee. As the Director General of the presidential campaign of APC, tell us the experiences you had when suddenly you sweep the PDP you swept the PDP from the leadership of this country. Please.
Senator Ashafa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senate President. I'm Senator Gbenga Ashafa, representing Lagos East Senatorial District. The whole country and indeed the world are watching us. And one salient question, which should have been asked you, but up till now has not been asked, is the question I'm going to pose to you right away. In your earlier response, you did mention that there was a panel instituted by the present government of Rivers State. I believe it's a judicial commission. And from what we were reading in the papers, this commission indicted you on corruption, serious corruption allegations. And if we don't ask you that question, and you leave this hallowed chamber today, the whole world will ask us, what did we really do? I want you to expose the details of these corruption allegations so that your personality will further be known by all Nigerians. And if eventually you are confirmed as an honorable minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Nigerians will be happy that this is a very transparent, honest, and committed individual to that change in interest. Thank you very much.
Senator Abdurrahman Abubakar.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I have one question for Mr. Nominee, and the question has to do with the image of this present administration. This government we know is out for change. We have started witnessing the products of this change. But one worry, one area that I can easily talk about is, for instance, the issue of energy. We have enjoyed electricity in this country now for the past 4 months, more than we enjoyed over the last 20 years. So this is change, positive change.
Order. Order.
My question now, distinguished colleagues, my question now is, one worry that this government also has is the issue of massive unemployment. So if you are confirmed as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, how would you contribute? How will you bring your charisma to bear on the determination of this government, to reduce unemployment in this country and create better life for our citizens? Thank you very much.
Next question, sir.
President, and thank you, distinguished senators. Let me start with the last question that was asked by Senator Abubakar. I hope that I will not be punished if I agree that there is change in the air. No, I agree that there is change in the air. There is absolute change in the air. That was what led me to joining APC. leaving PDP. Now, you've cited the example of power. You've not cited the example of executive impunity and recklessness. At least people can walk freely. As governor of Rivers State, I had no police attached to me. I think those ones have been taken care of now. When you deal with the issue of massive unemployment, you deal with the change in the economic mantra. The mono-economic situation where we have, monocropping economic situation that we have cannot survive. Nigeria cannot continue to be what we are if we continue to just rely on oil. For me, I agree with the president that there is a need to invest in agriculture. When we went to Germany, there was no natural resources that we met. Now, if we invest in agriculture and invest in technology, you would hire as many workers as possible. In the course of campaign, I discovered that in Borno, we were seeing watermelon that were grown naturally. If you plant just 100,000 hectares of watermelon in Borno, if you encourage it by disbursing funds to responsible farmers, and you have 100,000 hectares of farmland planting watermelon alone in Borno, you can be sure to engage more than 30,000 workers. You can be sure to engage more than 30,000 workers. If you do a similar thing around Kano and other parts, look at the first, what crops can be suited in which area, and you encourage farmers with funding, because problem is the fund from the banks and the interest rate. So government must invest in that regard. If you do that, sir, you will get employment. Did we do that in Rivers State? The answer is yes. We established 2 farms. We established a farm for training. We established a banana farm. And we employed the time I feel happy is when I go on inspection and I see men, women queuing up to be hired on daily basis. And they are paid on daily basis. I think that we must diversify the economy. Mining is another area that God has blessed us, that we need to do that. And we also need to invest in education, because some of these people are unemployable. We need to invest hugely on education. Did you do that in Rivers State? Yes. For the 4, 5, 6 years, our budget was highest in education in Rivers State. So if this happens, sir, I think we employ quite a large number of workers. Secondly, you must improve on what are called the social rights of the people. If you improve on social rights of the people, there will be peace. If you have peace, there will be investors. You must have power, whether we like it or not. If you don't have power, there will be no industrialization. If you don't improve on power supply, and I don't see the rocket science in power supply, I think we should just look at what the problems are and remove corruption and invest in power. And then you will see as many people as possible that will have other forms of this. The reason why most people don't invest in Nigeria is that the cost of production in Nigeria by far outweighs the benefits you will make from your business. So Nigeria, I usually say that a Nigerian is a government on his own. He hires his own security, he has his own boat, he has his own generator. So what is government providing? That's why government needs to do all this. And that is as refers to you. Senator Gumar, that's a very difficult question to answer, my distinguished senator. Extremely difficult in the sense that I don't think that I'll be doing good to my colleagues and brothers. I was once in PDP, who are on this side, that we should be trying to explain to them how we managed to take PDP out of power. But key was that we sold to the public. We sold to the public the fact that there was massive corruption in the system, and there was a need to fight that corruption. And the only way to fight that corruption is to put a new government. And we had to get a signpost candidate. The signpost candidate is a man who the Nigerian public have seen as an incorruptible president. And that's why the party had to put President Buhari forward. And we thought there was a need to do things differently. I thought that as good as the former president may have been, I don't think he was suitable enough for the growth and development of Nigeria. So we needed to offer the opportunity to somebody we believe, and I believe that, is better than the former president. But I don't think we should go right on what happened. Let me thank you, Senator Ashafa. I repeated that I brought all the copies of the panel. I didn't bring the white paper. all the copies of the panel. I didn't bring the white paper. There is nowhere I was indicted. If the Senate President permits me, I'm ready to lay this on the table so that members can have opportunity of reading it. Nowhere that I was indicted. Now, you've asked me to define corruption. Corruption is very difficult to define. If you're a public officer and you don't take bribe, I have never taken bribe in my life. But if they send a girl to you and you sleep with the girl and do that favor, you're corrupt. They think that corruption is only when you collect bribe. Corruption is a very wide concept. If people are competing for a position and you offer your son or your brother or sister an opportunity to hold that position, when the person is not qualified, you are corrupt. So it's difficult for me to define corruption, sir. I hope that I've been able to put things a bit the way I thought I should define it. Let me turn to Monaco. What will I do to ensure that when you talk about unity, diversity, good governance and all that, there must be consequence for actions taken by anybody. If we begin to punish people who disobey the law or the constitution, then we will keep our unity. Believe me, the truth is that the Ikore man in my village has nothing against the Hausa man in Sokoto. The fight is among the elites. And the fight among the elites is not because you're from Sokoto or I'm from River State. If you bring the money, I mean you are sharing, we will know you're from Sokoto, you will know I'm from River State. What we know is the money. So the unity is there. It is equal among the elites on the issue of power sharing and capital sharing. I think that's all, sir. No, you talk about what's the recipe for peace between the governors. Again, it depends on both the governor and the minister. Some ministers are appointed, and if they were in the past, if they were nominated by their governor, suddenly form their own group and begin to fight the governor. And when they do it, they use what they call federal might. So the commissioner, I'll give myself as an example. I never saw my commissioner of police again until I left office for 3 years. For my director of SSS to come to my office or my house by 12 midnight, he will wear face cap and put the front behind, hire a taxi and drive into my compound, whisper to me and run away. He will come in a taxi. The horse. I never became commander. They hijacked him at the federal level. If we keep to the rule of law and take away impunity and allow the governor to function as a governor, that will be it. Thank you very much, sir.
Has taken questions about 11 senators and has been with us now for 50 minutes. Is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee takes his leave now?
Yeah.
Mr. Nominee, you can take your leave.
River State Governor Rotimi there. He has taken quite a number of questions from distinguished senators, even though the minority leader who leads the PDP senators spoke much earlier before the commencement of the screening that no questions would come from the side of the PDP senators, and indeed no questions came from that side. Amaechi served as the 5th governor of River State from 2007 to 2015. He was re-elected for a second term on the 26th of April 2011. Rotimi Amaechi was a member of the People's Democratic Party before defecting to the All Progressives Congress. He was Director General of the presidential campaign of the All Progressive Congress that saw to the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. All Progressive Congress that saw to the emergence of President Muhammadu Buhari as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. screen former Governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amaechi. It is likely the Senate will consider and call Ocholi. In fact, that's him. Senator Henekim Loko, former chairman of the Senate, will consider and call Ocholi. In fact, that's him. Senator Henekim Loko, former chairman of the Senate.
Distinguished senators, please take your seats. Distinguished senators, please take your seats. Distinguished senators, please take your seats.
Thank you.
Any more information you want to add, or something has been omitted, please do so. And just a short introduction of yourself for those who have not had the privilege to meet you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Senate, Your Excellencies, the Senate Leader, the Senate Minority Leader, and all other leaders of the Senate, my distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the President, may I give you indulgence specifically to recognize my senator, Senator Rotimi. Let me also recognize Senator Ben Bruce and Senator Manuel. Since we came to 2007, you've been chairman. And I think this was considered chairman. Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, sorry, distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I'm from and I'm taking from the Deputy President who proceeded from a PhD, and I enrolled for a PhD in the university, and I've since submitted my final thesis, and I'm awaiting any date for me to defend.
and then be enrolled into a category of scholars in Nigeria. I want to say that it's a very privilege to have been found worthy to be nominated by the President to be a minister in his government. And I want to say, I pledge that having had the opportunity of being in the Senate for 8 years, and if by the majority of the Senate, if I'm confirmed and sworn in as a minister, I will perform whatever role that is given to me, whatever ministry is given to me, with high sense of patriotism and commitment. I will never indulge in anything that will bring this Senate to disrepute, as I've always known that I'm one of your own. I will never indulge in any action that will bring the Senate to disrepute. I will never do anything that will bring the government of President Muhammadu Buhari to disrepute. Thank you very much.
Education will be on environmental issues in just educate us. What do you think? How do we defend the going forward the environment in Nigeria against oil pollution and those kinds of things?
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, President of the Senate, I wrote a paper on environmental rights because as a scholar, I found out in the course of my research that there's a lacuna in our laws. Our laws, contrary to other jurisdictions, do not make provision for environmental rights. What we have in the Constitution is non-justiciable. It just listen a duty on the federal government to ensure the environment has been protected. But when the environment has been destroyed, the individuals have no environmental rights, just like other fundamental human rights, to go to court and seek for redress. And so I wrote a paper saying that there is a need for a law to be passed by the National Assembly to bridge that gap. That is the content of my publication. And I was speaking to the chairman of the Senate for 4 years. The challenge we had has to do with funding. It has always been, the case where the liabilities in the water sector will be in the neighborhood will be 210 billion, and the budget will be 5 billion, could be 50 billion, which cannot in any way meet the obligations of the ministry. And I also know the importance of water to life, and there was a study that was carried out by the UN that showed that Nigeria is one of the worst countries in the world in terms of deaths arising from waterborne diseases. So I believe that going forward, this Senate should take very pragmatic steps to ensure that the budget for water could be increased so that water could be made more available to Nigerians. In places where there's more water, there's less to drink. You go to Bayelsa wherever, you go to wherever there's water to drink. And we believe that even the fresh water could also be converted to drinking water, purify it. There are some simple technologies that can be used to purify water for the drink and also other parts of the country. Thank you, Mr. President.
It's easy we should say that the nominee takes leave now. Distinguished Senator, and take your leave.
Keeping with the tradition of the Senate of the Republic, being a former senator, he had served in the 7th and 8th Senates. Senator Heineken, Minister nominee from Bayelsa State, former chairman of the Committee on Water Resources, and former chairman of the Committee on Sports, is now taking power and leaving the Senate chambers. He has spoken on the need for laws that will ensure that citizens can take to court and take government institutions or agencies to court and exercise their environmental rights. He said it's a paper he has worked on. He implored the National Assembly to legislate in that regard. He also spoke on the need to increase the budgetary allocation to the water sector in the country. He said the amount been allocated in the budget, several budgets in this country is paltry and inadequate compared with the challenges there are within the water sector and the needs of the citizens to have potable and access to clean and potable water all across the country. Any moment from now, other nominee will bring brought into the Senate chambers because the Senate in its wisdom has so far considered two ministerial nominees this Thursday, the 22nd of October 2015. The first one was former Rivers State Governor Rotimi Amaechi, and the second one just leaving the Senate now, in the person of Senator Ocholi, ministerial nominee from Bayelsa State. It is likely where there's only Adewale Ezekolo, Baba Shehuri, Mustafa, Ocholi, and Inojo James may be the likely ministerial nominees that are slated for today.
Distinguished colleagues, the third ministerial nominee we have with us this afternoon is Prodius Omole Daramola. You are welcome. The ministerial nominee, we have your CV. So we want you to give us a brief introduction of yourself. There's no need to talk at length in the entire CV, but if there are areas that are omitted, the areas that you want to, for emphasis, talk about, then after that you take your first questions.
The Honorable Senate President, the Senate leader, Senate principal officers, and distinguished members of the Senate, particularly senators from my state, Senators Yele Ogowa, Tayo Alaswa, and Ajaibo Office. I am here, first of all, to appreciate the President for nominating me from Ondo State, and secondly, to appreciate the senators for receiving here this afternoon. I am Professor Claudius Daramola from Odiaye in Unupalupalu area of Ondo State. I became a professor at the University of London in 2005. I am a proudly Nigerian academic. While I was one of the few lucky Nigerians to be admitted as the foundation students of the prestigious University of Sokoto, now Madafodi University, where I earned my first degree. For my master's, I earned this from the University of Jos, and my PhD in Sociology of Education at the University of London. I take 20 years of blemish teaching community service at the University of London. I've had the experience at the College of Education in Lagos, University of Lagos, and University, Webber, Ireland, Bayelsa State.
This Senate do sit beyond 2 o'clock as stipulated. I so move.
Mr. President, I do second.
Those in favor of the motion that the Senate sits beyond regular time, those against nay. The ayes have it.
I have also been academic to several universities in the United States of America. My teaching experience has spanned over 4 decades. Actually started as a primary school headmaster. I had the privilege of serving as assistant headmaster in the secondary modern school. In a secondary grammar school and a lecturer in a college of education. Therefore, I have been lucky to have transferred of the Nigerian educational ladder. Within the university, I have been a member of the university since 2002 and served twice as the head of my department. In addition, I have successfully supervised over 80 masters and 6 doctoral students who are now serving the nation in several crucial capacities. I have served as external assessor for professorial candidates and as examiner for candidates in several top-rated universities, e.g. Usman Danfodio University, Ahmadu Bello University, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, University of Uyo, etc. My nomination as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which I sincerely to me is a cause and an opportunity to bring my professional experience to bear in responding to the several challenges confronting our nation. Nigeria is an interesting sociological study where institutions appear to be working at cross purposes. As a sociologist of education, we cannot solve the systematic problem by merely addressing it as a whole. In any change can only be assured through holistic appreciation and resolution of its challenges. Such a challenge can only be assured through quality education that is anchored within the nation's sociological context. Thank you, Mr. President.
I have 2 questions for you. One is you told us here you've been involved in education all your life. Now, we have 2 major problems with higher education at tertiary level. One is the constant strike by your colleagues, university teachers. And a lot of students they get into university for 4-year program, they end up spending 8 years because of the strike actions of teachers. How do you address this problem? The second is the issue of funding of tertiary education. There's ongoing debate all over the world on the appropriate way to fund tertiary education. So what is in your view to be appropriate for us as contributing our state of economy? Should universities be financially independent in such a way that they can charge appropriate fees, and maybe government now provide grants and scholarships and student loans? Or you believe that what we are doing is correct, where government go universities and then take up responsibility of running these institutions? What is your view to be appropriate for us? And finally, I've looked at your CV. Under our constitution, every state is entitled to one minister who must be an indigenous of that particular state. Now I've looked at your CV. There's no document to establish that you are from Ondo State, Ondo. Okay, there's no document here showing that you are from Ondo, because we have other CVs where your colleagues had included documents to establish, pursuant to the Constitution, they are indigenous to those respective states. So if you have it somewhere, would you be glad to send it to us in the course of our confirmation hearing?
Senator Buhari.
My name is Senator Ike. I represent the West. Senator Ike.
Senator Buhari.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleague, my name Buhari Abfatai, Oyo North. Mr. Nominee, I have 2 questions for you. As of today, we have over 100 universities in this country. producing graduate year in, year out. And at the end, they come into the labor market unemployed. What are the way you believe we will be able to solve this problem for this country? The second question, cultism is rampant in this country today. And I've seen that you have spent most of your year in the university. How do you tackle it? Thank you.
Senator Sam Ogagumwa.
Mr. President, this is combining my senior brother's name with my name, but your name is Ogagumwa. Sam, you can't Ogagumwa. Mr. President, my name is Senator Mao Ogagumwa, representing the entire people of Abia North District of Goston State, Abia State. Prof, you're welcome. From your CV and from what you said, I think it's likely you might be the best education minister we've not had yet. Because looking at your CV, you've been an assistant headmaster, you've been a headmaster. That's what I'm saying, you've been an assistant headmaster, you've been a headmaster, you've been a teacher, you've been a lecturer, you've been a professor, and I've seen the number of candidates and students who supervised both at doctorate and other levels. Two questions I want to ask. One, when we were growing up, we knew about education supervisors, those who go to schools, to supervise schools, to assess them, and score them accordingly. Today, I doubt if we still have education supervisors. Because if you look today, we have proliferation of private schools, nursery, primary, secondary. And if you pay a particular amount this term, next semester, it will be another amount, another semester, which shows that there is no monitor, there is no supervisor. But it's still the Ministry of Education that gives them this approval to run. But after that, they are left to charge at what level. If they have a schools meant for only president, children, or whatever, based on fees. Number two, so what do you think will be the best approach to that? Number two, sir, I can see too from your record, you went to teachers training college, had grade 2 certificate. I want to ask you, sir, if you become the Minister for Education, what will be your training program for our teachers? Our teachers constantly trained, or they just graduate and they go into academic world and they remain there. And again, are they properly remunerated? And finally, when we were also growing up, civic education was part of the curriculum. History. Today, you don't teach civics, you don't teach national ethics, you don't teach history. What effect do you think that non-teaching of those subjects has on our education system? And finally, sir, is everywhere you go, people say that the education standard is falling in Nigeria. It's become a sing-song. What can you do as a Minister of Education to ensure that maybe within your 4 years or within this short period, the music will change, that everyone, instead of going to Ghana or Cameroon or wherever, they rather will turn that people will begin to come to Nigeria as it used to be to acquire education. Those are my questions, Mr. President.
Senator Adeleke.
Isiaka Adeleke, Osun West. Prof, October 11, 2015 was the International Day of the Girl Child. And in commemoration of the event, the United Nations released some shocking statistics. One, that more than 700 million women world over were married as children. That is those below the age of 18. That every 10 minutes, somewhere in the world, an adolescent girl dies as a result of violence. In emergencies, Adolescent girls are especially vulnerable to sexual violence, and in some cases are abducted and exploited for sexual purposes by armed groups. A case in hand is our Chibok girls. As a sociologist, how can we protect our girls in Nigeria from societal biases and manners? Thank you.
Professor, let me take those questions. Take those sets of questions.
The first question by Senator Ike constant strikes in our universities. Okay, sorry, Deputy Senate President Ike asking about our universities. This is because of lack of communication between the government and the universities. Then the universities administration and the lecturers. We have gap. And to solve this, with due respect, one needs to go to University of Ilorin to borrow a leave. We don't go on strike. If you respect, one needs to go to University of Ilorin to borrow a leave. We don't go on strike. If you respect, one needs to go to University of Ilorin to borrow a leave. We don't go on strike. If you respect, one needs to go to University of Ilorin to borrow a leave. We don't go on strike. If you then for respect, one needs to go to University of Ilorin to borrow a leave. It has been the cry of every person that the universities or education in general inadequately funded. Then the question is, do we have any monitoring team? Do we put anything on the ground to monitor the money the federal government sends to these institutions? The federal government will be sending money. If this money might be going to, the question is, do we? It is the federal government is giving enough attention to the university funding. But I'm saying the little the university, the little the federal government is giving, are we actually monitoring it? The federal government. That is to say that we must put a machinery in motion that we go around the universities to see actually the money that are being pumped out are going to those projects that they were meant for. Then you mentioned that we go around the universities to see to show that actually the money that are being pumped out are going to those projects. I am from Ondo State. My mother is from Ondo State. My father is from Ondo State. My three senators, my three distinguished senators, they know that I'm from Ondo State. Even if you go to Sokoto today at the Usman Fodo University, of education will mention my name. They will tell you I'm from Ondo State. They will tell you I'm from Ondo State. Senator Buhari, you are talking about reduction of graduates and they are not employed. Yes. What brings about this is the systematic problem in our educational system. We have systematic problems in our educational problem. The society itself is made up of systems. You have educational system, the family system, the educational system, the political system, the religious system, the social system, because they have their own functions, but they will be working towards the same goal. But when they are working across purposes, definitely we cannot move anywhere. In order to solve this particular problem, I think we have to borrow leave from Jabu, Joseph Ayo Babalola University, Arakeji in Osun State. There, you are entering as an undergraduate. You have to register for your courses, and you have to register for courses that will teach you skills. And you have to take courses and pass them, not as general studies. If you fail them, you won't go. So that after leaving the university, you will not go and look for white-collar jobs. The white-collar jobs are no more there. They are no more there. So I think we can borrow from Joseph Ayo Babalola University. Then on courtism. Courtism in our universities is the spillover from the society. The universities are within the society. Anything that happens to the society will be reflected in the university. Many of our parents belong to different societies. So therefore, if this happens, you can be sure that it will replicate itself in the university system. But we need the cooperation of the school, university authority, and the parents. Because when the parents teach values that are at variance with the values that are taught in the school, the child will be disorganized. And this is what, and let me tell you that the court members, you can hardly get the sons and daughters of poor parents. No. Only the children of comfortably placed Nigerians are members. So to stop that courtism in Nigeria, we need the cooperation of the parents and the administration. Therefore, Senator Sam Wabua. I'm sorry, maybe you have to give me a handout so that I'll be able to pronounce the... Education, supervisors in our schools. You are very correct that there are no thorough supervision in our schools. And this is one of the challenges that is facing our educational system today. This is why our educational system is weak. No thorough supervision. The teachers are not remunerated, so they go to school to play. So if they have 5 lessons in a day, maybe they manage to teach 2 or 3. So if supervision is put in place, definitely our educational system will improve. I'm not saying it will not, but it will improve in one way or the other. One important fact is we are talking about the falling standard of education. We have to be very careful when we are trying to compare 2 things that are not comparable. Because in the 1950s or 60s, what was the curricula? Teachers are taught, pupils are taught how to become catechists, interpreters, teachers, and clerks. Very narrow. But today, because the society is dynamic, it keeps on changing. So the curriculum has changed, and there are so many distractions. And this has actually affected our educational system. For teacher training, yes, those of us who had the benefit of attending teachers training college, we realize that the training we got are quite different from what is operating today. Teachers are no more committed. And how can you blame them? Teachers are not paid for 4 months, 6 months, 9 months, and you expect them to go to the school to give in their best. It got to a stage where some organizations keep on donating to teachers in one of these states. So I believe the teachers will have to train them and retrain them on the job. And most importantly, teachers are to be paid regularly. Yet, another question is on, we teach civics, history. In those days, we were taught civics, history, and so many subjects in the classroom. But today, civics it's only recently that they have reintroduced civics. But history, those days we were taught the history of Mary Slessor, the Clapperton, the Landa brothers. But today, no, there is no history, no teaching of history. History should be brought back so that they will teach, not Clapperton this time, the history of our heroes and heroines. Then, lastly, girl education. Girl education. This has been one of the challenges in our educational system. And we need to educate the parents so that they will know the importance of education. How do we do this? We need to mount community radio using local languages to transmit to the parents the importance of education. Not that alone. The school should be made, the school environment should be made friendly. That is, there should be no school fees. Then they should be fed in the afternoon. Because many of them, despite the fact that schools are located in their community, they don't attend. And some who attend will not complete the program. So I'm saying that parents should be educated so that they will send their own wards to these schools, and that the schools must be prepared to feed them in the afternoon, give them midday meal. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Samuel Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Mr. Nominee, I want to congratulate Mr. President for nominating you. At least you can represent the old generation in Nigeria. Now, my question is this. In the last administration, 4 institutions of colleges of education, namely Avadiko College of Education, College of Education Zaria, College of Education Ondo, where you come from, and College of Education Kano, we are upgraded from College of Education to University of Education. And recently, we just heard that this present administration has downgraded back those institutions to their former status. Do you think that if you find yourself as a minister for education, will you advise that this institution be upgraded back to status of University of Education to help in training of teachers in Nigeria? That's one. Because your nomination did not come with any portfolio, you might find yourself also in the Ministry of Information or Orientation. Let me ask you a question. Under the order of protocol, do you believe that the Senate President and Executive Governor of a state who is higher, and do you think that it's proper to put the Senate President to have immunity in our Constitution? Thank you.
Senator Gobri, brief question on this.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Ibrahim Gobir from Sokoto East. Mr. Nominee, I would like to join my colleagues in congratulating you for that nomination as a nominee for the ministerial appointment. The question I would like to ask is bordering on functional education. In fact, for several years we have been talking about functional education. And the lack of implementation of this functional education is responsible for the young people we are turning out and still being unemployed. What do you think, if you are confirmed as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, do you think you can instill functional education in this country?
I will start by answering the last question. There is no doubt about that I can take care of that will be functional education in this country. I have mentioned it that because of the systematic problems. For example, in our universities, we have conventional universities producing graduates. The colleges of education, they are struggling to produce graduates. In our conventional universities, we have Ministry of Agriculture, whereas we have University of Agriculture. Why duplicating? Why not remove these faculties from and put them in one university, like we have Abeokuta? So this is the problem of working across purposes. Now, the functional education, I've mentioned it before, that there is no way that our educational system or the products can be functional unless we introduce entrepreneurial education, so that the graduates will go back to establish themselves. They will be They will be employing labor, not seeking for job. Now, what are we do for the immunity of the president, of the Senate, and the governors? Well, that is a constitutional question. I'm not a lawyer. So I believe that will be left for the lawyers to treat. Okay.
Minister, come and take your leave.
next nominee is Mustafa Baba Shehuri, a nominee from Borno State. So far, 3 nominees have already been screened in today's proceeding. They include former Governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amaechi, Senator Heneke Lokubiri, represented by Elsa State with a nominee.
Distinguished.
And also Gladius Omaloye Daramola from Ondo State.
Order.
Distinguished colleagues, the next ministerial nominee we have before us is Honorable Baba Shehuri Mustafa. Distinguished nominee, we have your CV. You don't need to go into full detail. We all have it. Unless there's anything you want to tell us about yourself that is not in the CV, or there's something you want to emphasize about, or something that, as I said, has been omitted. Just a very brief introduction of yourself. As I'm sure, as you know, this Senate has been almost taken over by members from the House of Representatives. So I'm sure most of them know you. But for those of us who don't know you, but it seems we are in the minority these days. So, Honorable.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Senate, my leader, the Leader of the Senate, the Deputy Leader of the Senate, Principal Officers of the Senate, distinguished Senators, good afternoon, sirs. My name is Honorable Mustafa Baba Shehuri. Mr. President, distinguished senators of our great country, it affords me a great pleasure to present myself before you for the confirmation as a Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, bringing with me my wealth of grassroots political experience, which, as you all will agree with me, is a fundamental requirement for this most important assignment for which Mr. President has nominated me. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Senate, I am here as a ministerial nominee of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and not a representative of any vested interest, but a voice of the common man. In short, I am here only to be given the opportunity by your confirmation to serve my fatherland and peoples of our great nation, Nigeria. Mr. President, sir, distinguished senators, as I have stated in my introductory remark, I am a grassroots man. I started my political career as a delegate on non-party basis in 1995 during the Abacha administration. I was later elected a councillor of my ward, Lamislaja Bomari, of Maiduguri Metropolitan Council. In 1996, I was elected local government council chairman of Maiduguri Metropolitan Council under the defunct political party, Grassroots Democratic Party, GDM. Again, I was elected twice to represent Maiduguri Metropolitan Council in the Borno State House of Assembly from 1999 to 2007. Mr. President, distinguished senators, having made my modest and humble contribution to the development of my state, I aspired and got elected again in 2007 as member of House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria representing Maiduguri Federal Constituency in the 6th Assembly. My distinguished senators, this gave me an opportunity to serve not only my immediate constituency, but the entire country. Your Excellency, distinguished senators, throughout my political life, I have, to the best of my ability, served and represented ordinary Nigerians. In the course of discharging my duties in the various offices, I found myself, particularly in the National Assembly. I have traveled across the length and breadth of this country. Thus, it is worth noting that with even the existence of diverse cultures and peoples, there seems to be the same set of challenges confronting them. These challenges are poverty, unemployment, insecurity, and illiteracy. The ordinary man, who represents at least 80% of the nation's population, lack most of the basic necessities of life. Therefore, they all face the same problems and challenges. Mr. President, sir, distinguished senators, as I rose through my political career amongst ordinary Nigerians, I do have an informed knowledge of not only their pain, misery, and frustration, but also their hopes, aspirations, and the zeal to achieve for themselves, their families, their communities, the basic necessities of life. Wherever I find myself, I shall therefore put to use my experience to better the life of Nigerians. Your Excellency, Mr. President, distinguished senators, and members of the Senate, this unique opportunity has been presented to me to contribute to and serve my fatherland. I would like to assure you all that I shall do my uttermost best, if given the opportunity by this distinguished hallowed chamber, by confirming my nomination as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Yes, and also a member of the House of Representatives. You're also a council chairman. Just briefly, what advice do you think to how to improve local government administration?
Distinguished senators, from what I experienced as local government chairman, my advice is for local governments to have autonomy. Local governments should have control of the funds that is meant for them. Unlike the situation that we have today, where local governments' funds are hijacked at the state level, and in most cases, it doesn't trickle down to serve the purpose it is meant for. Thank you, sir.
Come and take your leave.
Shehuri Mustafa, a nominee from Borno State. Looking at his CV shows that he is a grassroots politician who started as a local government chairman, the House of Representatives, where he represented Maiduguri Metropolitan in the 6th Assembly. Having come from Borno State facing security and other socio-economic challenges, the nominee promised to focus his energy in addressing those challenges if confirmed as minister. And of course, as former local government chairman, he was taking up on the issue of local government autonomy, where he mentioned issues affecting local government autonomy to do with funding. Baba Shehuri Mustafa is, of course, nominee on the screen today. We have Rotimi, the former governor of Rivers State, who was the first person to have been screen today. We have Heneke Lekobiri, a former senator from Bayelsa State. And, of course, Cletius Omole Daramola, a nominee from Ondo State.
Distinguished colleagues, next ministerial nominee we have with us, James Ocholi, formerly from Kwara, now Kogi State. On the ministerial nominee, we have your CV. We've gone through it. If there's anything in your CV that you want to emphasize on, or if there are things that have been left out, you can just give us a brief introduction of yourself, and after that, you take a few questions.
Thank you, sir. Your Excellency, the President of Senate, Your Excellencies, the Deputy Senate President, Your Excellency, the leadership of Senate, most distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I am Ocholi Enojo James. And I'm delighted, I'm privileged, very highly privileged, to stand in the hallowed chambers of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria by the nomination of Mr. President to present me for the office of the Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I come from a very humble background, from a village called Udanebiomi in Ogbabede Ward of Biraidu District of Dikina Local Government of Kogi State. I agree, I was formerly in Kwara, thereafter to Benue, and now to Kogi State. Your Excellency, when I listened to Mr. President of our country, sometime on the 27th of July 2015, in one of his speeches, saying that from what he had seen so far, that we will really need patriotic Nigerians, Nigerians who can work very hard, Nigerians who are knowledgeable, who are experienced, who are committed to the cause of change to head the various ministries. I knew that Mr. President had raised a higher bar than the earlier promise he had given in the course of the campaign, that he will want a particular category of people to work with him in piloting the affairs of this nation. For me to find my name in that list has not only humbled me, but has given me a bigger challenge to do more than whatever Mr. President saw in me before putting my name on this list. Mr. President, I'm a lawyer by profession. I was called to the bar in 1986. I became a senior advocate of Nigeria in 2007. I am an active private legal practitioner. I have provided several legal services to government, agencies of government, departments of government, both in solicitors' jobs and in advocacy. I represent change. I push for change very passionately, even in the legal profession. A few years ago, I was the chairman of the disciplinary committee of the Nigerian Bar Association, FCT chapter. I'm delighted to stand in the hallowed chambers as I present myself to your Excellencies, and to distinguished senators, if you find me fit for confirmation, I make a promise that I will not let you down. Thank you, sir.
Distinguished colleagues, first, I must say that me and the nominee were called to the bar the same year. He's been my friend. But there is this issue of what can best be described as over-personalization of government institutions by political appointees of government, wherein you notice day by day crass, and I repeat the word, crass abuse and misuse of power, contrary to the oath of office that they have taken. If this Senate confirms you as Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, contrary to what we have seen some of our colleagues did in the service of this fatherland, do we have an extraction from you that you will honestly, fearlessly, and in accordance with the tradition of the bar, advise Mr. President as and when you believe he is derailing? One question. The second question is that in the past, still trading on that of our personalization of government agency, we have had a situation where, contrary to the oath of office of elected officials, this includes governors, senators, local government chairmen, councillors downward, wherein after swearing to an oath of office that they will not allow their personal interest to affect their official conduct, we see manifest influence on the performance of the duties or the function of their office swayed by their personal interests. In clear terms, we have had certain fundamental decisions of government taken solely for the purpose of satisfying the want or ego or personal aggrandizement of a leader. If you are confirmed as a senator, as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we have an extraction from you too, that in accordance with the best tradition of the bar, you will stand firmly against these excesses in the government that promises Nigerians change. Thank you, sir.
Leader of the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Distinguished Mr. Nominee, in the course of introducing yourself, you made a very interesting disclosure to me, which I'm of personal interest. And that is that you are an advocate for change in every system, especially in the profession you find yourself. In this country, our prisons are so congested, and they are congested with people awaiting trial. And in most cases, these are poor people that could not, some cannot afford amounts ranging from 10,000 to 20,000 or even 30,000 bail money. And then here you are again in the same country. People will be accused of stealing billions, and you will hire a son like you and be granted a bail on self-recognition. while those that are languishing in our overcrowded prison are sometimes there because there is no justification for criminality. But when you see somebody stealing a goat or a chicken, and he's remanded in prison for a long time without trial, what will you do as an agent of change in order to address this, I feel, serious injustice to humanity?
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My distinguished colleagues, Mr. Nominee, your CV is of interest to me. And like the leader said, you mentioned the fact that you believe strongly in change. I'd like to ask two questions. Number one is that what will you do to address the issue of Nigerians who clamor for public offices, such as governorship? But when one person gets there, 99% of those who could not turn around to sponsor frivolous petitions against such a person, whether in office or out of office. In some instances, they bribe the press and they bandy amounts of 100 billion, 200 billion, sometimes above the revenue of the state, as money stolen by such public officer while serving as governor. And at the end, you may get up to 50,000 of such petitions. And we spend millions of dollars of hard-earned money to investigate them. And then you find nothing, that those people were not guilty. And the petitioners, they have no question to answer. In United Kingdom, you don't start a petition unless you have a sworn affidavit to the fact that you really have a petition on ground. Because you know the implication that at the end, if it is found out that it was a frivolous petition, it was politically motivated, then you will be charged for perjury. In Nigeria, we don't have such in our provision. I'm just assuming that because of your resume, you may be given a portfolio that may have something to do with changing the situation on ground. Don't you think that it will be necessary for us to have something inserted in our laws that can also take care of not just punishing people who are out to bring down others, even innocent people, but who are out to tarnish image of public officers and give Nigerians a token of the image of a corrupt nation? That's the first question. The other question I'd like to ask you is that if you are given a portfolio that has to do with welfare of Nigerians, in the Northeast, my heart bleeds, and I know other Nigerians feel the same, for the victims of Boko Haram, most especially the children, because many of them have lost their parents. Some are separated from their parents. This happened to us during the Civil War between 1967 and 1970. But when we came back from the war, Nigeria had no provision for free education of children who had no homes, who had no parents, whose fathers fought wars and died. What will you do to help the Northeast, particularly the Northeastern state children, where if the war on Boko Haram, as promised by Mr. President, actually ends in December? What will you do to help those children to have a future? Because a lot of people in Eastern region and the South died as mechanics, and some of them as conductors in motor parks, because there was no provision by the federal government of Nigeria for the education of those orphans that came back and were roaming the streets after the war. And yet, we are talking about a country that cares. I'm just mentioning this because of what you said. You said change. Will you be able to bring a change so that those children can have a future?
Thank you, Minority Leader. John Eno.
Mr. President, my name is John Owen Eno. I represent Cross River Central. Mr. Nominee, just one or two questions. My first question has to do with the war against corruption, vis-a-vis the present laws, anti-corruption laws we have in the country. As a lawyer who has practiced law for several years, do you think that the existing laws are adequate for the present war against corruption? That's number one. Number two, related to the issue of prison congestion and all that, it's the issue of delay in getting justice. I mean, there's a popular saying that justice delayed is justice denied. As a lawyer, what basic ideas do you think you have that you can share with this floor on how to tackle the continuing issue of the delay and the waiting time of getting justice within the country's justice system? Thank you.
So, Nominee, we take those questions.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished Senator Ballard, you raised a question on political appointees or public office holders who, contrary to their oath and codes of conduct that they have signed, engage in gross abuse. How will I handle it? Whether you can extract from me a firm commitment that I will offer Mr. President frank legal advice on the issue. To understand you very well, sir. I am very happy to say that Mr. President has known me for quite a long time. I have represented him in certain matters in court. And I have had the privilege of coming back to give him situation report and a way forward on the next proceedings. As a practitioner, it is part of our oath to be honest and straightforward with our clients. Put them in the picture of the situation they find themselves. Let them know what the law, as it is today, says about those situations, and leave him with the decisions. For recommendations, I make a vow to you that I will be frank, I will be honest, I will never mislead him, either for any gain or private gain or curry favor, by whatever reason. I will look straight into the legal issues, and I am happy that Mr. President has, in recent time, told one of us that even if I don't like what you are saying, but you know it is the truth, tell me. So Mr. President and I believe, will be on the same page as far as frank legal advice is concerned. And I promise you, I'll do so. The second question was fairly tied to this same issue also. And I assure you that from my end, the first oath that I think I owe any ministry that I'm posted to is to let them know that I will lead that ministry by example. And so if I do not do those things, then the staff under, beginning from the PAMSEC down the line, will also know that it is no longer business as usual. The distinguished majority leader of Senate, Senator Ndume, you did ask about the prison congestion, full of awaiting trials, whereas more privileged people in the society who probably are alleged to have committed higher crimes are often granted bail on self-cognizance and on lesser terms. And these innocent, somebody, seemingly innocent ones who are people of lesser means are subjected to rigors of trial and denied bail. Some of them are even arrested for offense they call wandering. As a private practitioner, I have come in contact with so much of this. As of today, the statistics of the prison inmates is staggering.
we have over 57,125 inmates. Out of this, those who are awaiting trial are 35,577, which forms almost 69% of the total number. This is minus the convicts. It's unhealthy for our society. The gap and the consequence of the imbalance is very dangerous to society. What do I intend to do? In my view, we are yet to have truly, in the sense, what is meant by prison. Majority of our prisons as we are today are concentration camps where people who were even have lesser tendency to crimes go into and become more brazen criminals before they come out because of the dangerous processes they go through. They are mixed with so many people. You arrest somebody for a force of wandering, and you may not have asked him where he was going to that particular time, and they clamp them into the prison, and they are waiting for DPP's legal advice, and for the next 3 years, he's languishing in that place. And before you know it, he's learning how to smoke Indian hemp. He's learning how to go and buy something for something else. It's a very unhealthy situation. I desire, if I have the privilege to handle such area, to ensure that we go into design and construction of new set of prisons to bring about a situation where we can have corrective measures in prisons, where skill acquisition will be the order of the day in our prisons, where we will have mosque and church and other things there to create about a reformation of heart or character in the prisons. The prisons needs to be improved upon. But second to it is that I strongly believe that our investigation system of crime is defective for now. Most of the times people are arrested, and before you know it, they are sent to magistrate courts and put in prison while they await investigation. I would prefer a situation where upon receipt of complaint on anybody for any crime, crime does not die, for crying out loud. Therefore, investigation should take its time, investigators should take time to first of all investigate. Investigation, in my view, is more costly than even criminal prosecution, because it might entail them traveling far, going different places to confirm stories based on the complaint of the complainant. When that investigation is thoroughly concluded and you move to the next stage, the final stage should be arrest of the accused person or the suspect. By the time you are making the arrest, you have enough details to allow the man or the woman to sing his song and tell all the lies he wants to tell, if he has to tell. When you have recorded that first statement of lies or whatever it is, then you confront him with the hard facts you had obtained in the course of investigation. Usually, such suspects will know that you have dug into their past or into the issue at stake before pouncing on them. So they will want to change their story. The second story they are going to change becomes statement number 2. You record that statement exactly the same way they have delivered it and keep it in the file. And confront them again if they want. This can go on for weeks. By the time the prosecutor takes the case, gives legal advice and goes to court, he is ready to fly. In which case, matters about bail are not treated the way they are treated now. Because the essence of bail is to secure the attendance of the accused person. So, the prosecution should not take delight in just denying bail as such, but allow the man to go if he can provide reasonable sureties. Because keeping indigent people in prison, young boys and young girls in prison, in itself creates a problem. It gives a lot of overhead costs to the prisons, and they are kept there. They are not educated. They don't have the chance to go to school. There are little or no schools in the prisons for them to go into. Major part of their lives are wasted. And by the time they are coming out after 15, 14 years in prison, maybe they are not even convicted. They are made to start their life afresh. I think issues about human rights will be given adequate consideration if I have the privilege to head any ministry in that area. That is my little opinion on the prison and what we can do about it. Distinguished Senator Akpabio, Your Excellency, you took on the issue of frivolous petitions engaging a winner of an election, and after long stories, you handled that the petitions may not have any substance, and what are the remedies available? Sir, in our legal system, we already have remedies. It only takes your lawyer to look at what to do. For instance, if a man makes a criminal allegation against you which are false, even if it is in a civil situation, but the content of the complaint is criminal, and he makes that allegation against you, and either cannot prove it right, or he even goes to court and he loses that complaint, you have a right to seek redress. There are various tortious remedies available. The tort of malicious prosecution, the tort of unlawful detention, the tort of defamation of character. Once that article was published, not just to the government agencies for solution, but he takes it to the press because he wants to scandalize your name. At the end of that, patiently waiting, and he is proved wrong, you can resort to litigation and claim huge amount of money. Medical doctors also could go through that same one if a medical doctor treats you negligently and you have suffered some defamation on account of that. You can take actions on gross negligence. These remedies are tortious, but a number of times our victims of such complaints either do not have the patience to seek redress because our legal system still grinds very slowly. Too slowly for many of our likings. But if you are patient and determined, you can take up the action, and a diligent counsel can walk through, no matter the length of time, and you can still get justice. But I think that the primary question here is that of speedy trial. How do we get speedy trial? In my view, the legal system in our country is being slowed down, not only because of absence of laws. The laws are plenty. We have enormous laws. But the main issue is, in this time and age, apart from a few states like Lagos, majority of our courts are still analog. The judges are taking time to write in their long hands. And if you go outside of this nation to other climes, you have all manner of secretariat staff, registry staff, that record what the proceedings are for the day without the judge having to write anything. He watches the prosecution witness or the defense counsel or the defense witness and judges whatever he wants. Because there's a recorder, video recorder, there's an audio recorder, there's a shorthand expert typing. There are all manner of machines copying what he's doing. And if you watch them carefully, they could pause and say, look, what did the witness say in the last 10 minutes on so issue? And those gentlemen will wind back and press the tape, and it will play out what he has said. Under that circumstance, they can afford to exchange pleadings, and then the court will fix maybe 2-3 months or even 6 months for trial. On the day of trial, trial must go on. If you take adjournment for 2 days, for 2 times, the next time you are denied, your case is dismissed. If you don't want to go to trial. We are yet to get to that stage. I know it is capital intensive, but if we must do it right, then we cannot avoid the cost. We must go into it because justice is key to an egalitarian society. And I think if I have the privilege, Mr. President, sir, to head any ministry that deals with this issue, I will thoroughly take time to advise it. Even if it means using some climes, some states as example, even if it means the Federal Executive Council collaborating with some states, we can start with some states, and the governors who appreciate such can make contributions to it, and then use maybe 2-3 courts, for example, and we can move ahead from that. Yes, that's as far as my reaction to Your Excellency is on that point. Your second point is on the Northeast, the calamity that has befallen Northeast on account of Boko Haram, and what we can do to take care of these unfortunate children who are victims of this war that is ongoing. So if my heart goes out for these children, recently my wife, a registrar of a private university, has decided to resign her job, and she wants to go into an NGO that will take care of these IDPs and children. As an educationist, we are putting some funds together for her to bring education closer to these children in their IDPs location. I believe that many of us as individuals can play a role in it, but happily there are international government agencies that have interest in this kind of area. It's not a thing that the government alone can do, but I assure you, sir, it is a critical area that must be done so that the psyche of these children will not remain deformed as it is now. Because many of them are hopeless, they are dejected, they don't know where the future lies, they don't know what will become of them in future. It's a terrible situation. And I think that the Mr. President, who loves this area very well, he is passionate about it. On day one, he began by trying to fight how the war will come to an end. I believe that taking care of the victims of this war will form part of Mr. President's agenda. If he does, I'll be more than willing to offer whatever advice we can, given the circumstance of the situation, to improve the lot of those children. Senator John, distinguished Senator John, you did raise the issue of war against corruption and whether I think the enabling laws that we have now are sufficient. In my view, no nation can codify all laws for every issue that bothers them. And that is why there are gaps in such laws where the judges can veer out of the codes and travel to other climes and import those laws where we have relationship with them too. So for now, I think the laws we have are fair enough. Of course, there is room for improving them, but the ones we have, in my view, are fair enough. But the main thing we need is the implementation, fair and adequate implementation of those laws. I even think that some of the laws are beginning to clash. For instance, the EFCC, the ICPC, I honestly think that one agency can combine those two functions and play effectively. If we have, after all, most of the staff of EFCC are drawn from the police. And police have either criminal code or penal code that are there for them to implement. And if there are economic crimes, yes, those economic crimes can be codified as done in the EFCC Act. And the ICPC can be combined with them. We can move ahead with the set of laws that we have. Finally, you took me on the delay in getting justice. I have addressed part of that earlier on in the course of my response. I honestly think that justice delayed is justice denied. And it injures people. And when it injures people, they are tempted to take laws into their hands. So it is not healthy for our society. The earlier we're able to address it adequately, the better. And if I have the privilege to do this, I will do all I can. Several things I'm going to do. Number one, that is why I like this Administration of Criminal Justice Act. It's an excellent law, bearing a few things that needs to be worked on. After all, no law is perfect. But for that law, you can get into a criminal trial, and within 3 months, you are over. But it takes 3 critical stakeholders to work in harmony to make that happen. 1, the judges. 2, the advocates. 3, the prison. Sometimes you get to court and the prison authorities say they have no fuel in their truck to bring the suspect to the trial. After a suspect has waited for trial for more than 3, 4, 5 months. I had one recently in which I provided money for the prison authority to bring the accused person to the court, and they said no. There was no fuel at that time, fuel shortage, so I provided fuel, bought jerrycan full of fuel, and sent them to the prison for them to bring them. They said no, they wanted cash. And so there are many things that we need to do to expedite justice in our nation. Thank you, sir.
My name is David Umaru. I represent the Niger East Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, just one little question. I know you have been in practice within the Federal Capital Territory, and I know you probably have had cause to witness the plight of the indigents of the FCT. We have had some protests in the past whereby they were asking that their plight be addressed. We have seen policy somersault with regards to the resettlement and compensation of the original indigents of the FCT. We know the constitutional provisions that relates to such an issue. What will be your attitude if you are confirmed and placed in a position where you would need to address this issue and have it settled once and for all? What would be your attitude and your advice to the President in respect of this long outstanding matter? Thank you very much.
Senator Joseph Ledani.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Joshua Lidani, representing Gombe South. Mr. Nominee, I would like to ask your views about the issue of plea bargain. It has become a very controversial issue, especially in recent times. Should plea bargain remain in our status books? What is the advantage in having plea bargain? Plea bargain. Should it continue to remain in our statute books? Plea bargain. Yes. Should it be abolished, or should it be reformed in some way as a part of our criminal justice system? Secondly, the Supreme Court has been complaining about the workload. The pressure of work is becoming very unbearable, and considering the number of Supreme Court judges we have, we find them dealing with a lot of cases. There has been some views that the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court is too large, that there should be a revision on the jurisdiction of the court so that some cases do not need to go to the Supreme Court. Interlocutory appeals do not need to go to the Supreme Court. What is your view about that, and what do you think you can do if you are in a position to influence the course of justice? And then thirdly, you have been in practice for quite a number of years and you have attained the rank of senior advocate. In the course of your practice, what case do you think, because maybe due to its complexity, that you've handled, that you think that you can recommend as a locus classicus that has found itself in the body of our case law, that you feel has really challenged your skill as a legal practitioner, that you like the legal profession to know about, so that lawyers, young lawyers, can benefit from it? Thank you.
Senator Isahama Misau.
Thank you, Mr. President and Chairman. I'm distinguished Senator Isahama Misau, representing the good people of Bauchi Central. I'm going to ask you a question as a possible Minister of justice. Many critics have described Nigerian anti-corruption activities as a mere media show. How can our anti-corruption war change from media trial to actual trial that may then serve the cause of justice? Then the second question, an efficient justice system is required an efficient criminal justice system is required to ensure the smooth running of any nation and is fundamental to the maintenance of law and order. Nigeria, however, has obvious loopholes in this regard. Kindly let us know the reforms you will advocate for and drive as a possible Minister of Justice.
Senator, if you take those questions.
Distinguished Senator David Umar, you asked a very biting question concerning part of your constituency, the FCT, concerning the plight of indigents of FCT, which apparently has been a long-standing issue. The FCT is true concerning within the Federal Capital Territory of indigents of FCT, in fact every part of the country, which apparently has been a long-standing issue. And I agree that the issue is true on the indigents of the FCTs within the Federal Capital Territory has not been exhaustively dealt with. In fact, every part of the country. I do agree with it. But I think that it is no longer helpful to treat them in piecemeal. That's my very candid opinion. I believe that it is better that these hallowed chambers, which also serves as the law-making body for FCT, needs to enjoy the benefit of a bill, maybe privately proposed, maybe government proposed, to address not just the status of FCT, which appears to be settled, but other ancillary issues around it, including whether you are entitled to an appointee of Mr. President as the Federal Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, your rights relating to your land, and several issues. I have tried in my little spare time to do some studies on it, but I have not been privileged to have one brief on that particular issue, so I didn't want to labor my head too much on it. But I know that the issues are very germane and are biting to the indigents, and I think that a holistic approach to it, preferably from the legislative angle, can best solve the problems. Distinguished Senator Saidamu, I'm sorry if I don't get the name right, you raised the issue of plea bargain. So I, in my experience, had difficulty in buying into plea bargain because it was not expressly codified before. But recently, as at 15th of May 2015, by one of the last legislatures that these hallowed chambers of the 7th Assembly made, the Criminal Administration Justice Act, have codified expressly how plea bargain can work. It has stated the circumstances where the plea bargain can be proposed. It has provided who initiates plea bargain. It has provided when a person, a suspect, an accused person, initiates plea bargain, what are the consequences? It means clearly that he is not contesting the criminality that he has been alleged. Then what are the terms for the bargain? How does negotiation go? And when the negotiation go, to what extent can it affect the punishment that will be meted? And even when they have agreed on those terms, does the judge have discretion in the award of the punishment that both the prosecution and the accused parties have agreed upon? is there in, I think, section 270 of the Criminal Administration Act of 2015. I think on that level, we can proceed. Whether we should abolish it, I don't think so. I don't think we should abolish it, because it is very possible that someone who had the privilege to hold money, property in trust, and had breached that trust, and later on changes his mind and said, I'm sorry for what I did. I want to return a chunk of these proceeds. He should be allowed to. It doesn't prevent him from being convicted, but it solves the entire riddle of the 12 years, 15 years of criminal trial. And the state does not get a refund of what they want. And even when they get, it will take more than 20 years. Some of the cases in relation to Abacha loot are still hanging on in some areas, which a plea bargain could sort them out as quickly as possible. So I think plea bargain should be encouraged instead of being abolished. You raised the issue about the workload in Supreme Court. Honestly speaking, I sympathize with the distinguished judges and justices of the Supreme Court. Those men are working beyond their age. Few months ago, at the international airport, I ran into the immediate Justice Dahiru Mustafa, the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, at the airport, and I couldn't recognize him. He was looking younger, he was fresh, he was strong, smart, carrying his briefcase by himself, and I went to halt him to help him out. And I said, my lord, what's the magic? Few months ago, you were looking so old, and all of a sudden now, the wrinkles are disappearing. And he said, what we go through in Supreme Court is tortuous and unbearable. I totally agree that the jurisdiction of Supreme Court is too wide. There are very few countries who ever try what we're doing now. In fact, we're very lucky that many of them are not dying on the seat. I think that, your distinguished senators, you will recollect that in the last attempt to amend the Constitution, the issue of their jurisdiction was part of what was produced and presented before the relevant committees for consideration. Till tomorrow, I know they are thinking. Many of them are not happy that the distinguished senators and members of House of Rep did not approve one reduction of their jurisdiction. They are overburdened. I was in court not too long ago, and matter touching on divorce, which ought to be matter for customary court or an area court, and maybe stop at upper area court or at high court, came as far as Supreme Court, and they are quarreling over who should have custody of a child. And before that case got to Supreme Court, it must have taken 15, 20 years. And yet they are in Supreme Court for it. Their lordships were visibly complaining. And I'm sure that the distinguished senators in the hallowed red chambers can bring a solution to that issue. Their jurisdiction is too wide. We need to reduce it drastically. In other climes, other countries, some Supreme Court have 15 cases for the whole year. And they take time to go to town, go to various jurisdictions and do robust research. When they come out with their judgments, they are not only just judgments, they are policy statements. They are like other laws made, which can be cited and for education, for learning in school. One judgment from Supreme Court can constitute a course for students in the law school, either in the university or faculty of law, but not the way we are doing now. They have to summarize their judgments and be as brief as possible, and it's telling on their health. I think we need to come to the aid of Supreme Court. If I have the privilege to hold the office that can bring solution to it, it will be one of the quickest steps I will take to ensure that we do something to their jurisdiction. Senator, you wanted also to know one of the complex cases that I may have done in the past. With every sense of modesty, I have done quite a lot. I'm a litigation lawyer. Solicitor's job are done by my juniors. I only do vetting once in a while. Litigation is my core strength. And so I'm in court every day. Tomorrow I will be in another court. So it's difficult for me to pick one. But let me look at the latest one that recently we had one in Kogi State High Court. It's a High Court matter, but it's a very unique judgment. And for such judgments, I desire that they are tested on appeal so that the veracity of it can either be affirmed or overturned, and then you go to Supreme Court and get their opinion. Here was a state where local government elections were to be conducted. The opposing parties, that is parties who were not in power in the state, clamored for the election to take place. And eventually they agreed to take place. And when they agreed, they didn't follow the basic rules of the game. No publication as to the venues where the polling units will be. No publication as to names of candidates and names of would-be voters to know where they are supposed to vote, so that on the appropriate day you can go to that place to go and vote. And something was hurried up, a charade called election, and they were sworn in. And I chose to take the matter to court personally on my own special strength and score. That time, merger had not taken place. So the ACN, the AMPP, the CPC were operating on their own. So I sought the permission of the three parties, leadership of the three parties in the state, to take up an action on their behalf and in their name, at no cost to them. At that time, I was already a member of the CPC, so I could make sacrifices for them. So I took it up in court and filed reliefs, seeking how to nullify that election. But I knew that if we go to the Election Petition Tribunal to go and take up the case in court, the tribunal will dismiss our petition. But the only way to go out was to attack the entire election of all the 21 chairmen and all the 1,001 councillors in one suit at the High Court. And we framed the suit very well and took it for testing. And everybody gave up hope and said, no, nothing will happen. This is not petition. This is not petition tribunal. So how can you be? It's a wrong venue, and so on and so forth. And we went through trial, and my issue for consideration was whether by virtue of the Constitution, a person, though not being a party member anymore, but who was a member of PDP before and has now been made the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission, is he such a person qualified to head the Independent State Electoral Commission for the state? PDP, yes, sir. So that was the issue. And to be candid with you, it was an issue open for argument. But at the end of the day, the judge agreed with our position that yes, this gentleman has evidence to show that he was a member of PDP. But at the time he was appointed, he had just ceased to be a member of PDP by one day. And then in the affidavit, they wrote that as soon as they were appointed, they resigned from being PDP members. So my issue was, it doesn't matter the time. The fact that he had already been part of PDP and had played on that terrain very well, is he not emotionally involved with what PDP had offered him before? Can he be objective in handling the scale and determine between four contesting political parties as to who should win in that election? The court agreed with us, and as of today, the entire 21 local government chairmen were dissolved. All the councillors in that place were dissolved, and we're back to ground one. And
I think by then they had over 12 and been with us over now. gender-friendly. Rotimi.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Nominee, I was very excited when you talked about patriotism, and there is a dearth of it in Nigeria. Right now, there is almost no one that will lay his life for this entity called Nigeria. And I believe there is a gap somewhere, either in our curriculum or in the way the government has interfaced with the polity. What is your take on it? 2, I see that you are a father and you are happily married with children. I'm sure you must have boys and girls. Do you have girls as children? He's busy writing. I'm sure you have girls. Oh, wonderful. You are going, if you are confirmed by this Senate, into an executive where you will have less than 20% of women in that executive. How do you react to it? Knowing and believing that as a father, you want equal opportunities for your children. And the fact that women constitute at least 48% of the voter population of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Senator Monsurat Sumono.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. My name is Monsurat Sumono, representing Oyo Central Senatorial District. Mr. Nominee, you are a senior advocate of Nigeria and a potential Attorney General. What can be done to increase access to justice for the less privileged in this country and to increase confidence in the justice system in Nigeria? I mean, you've already answered the second one about the plea bargain, but I just want to know what you can do to that so that the less privileged people will as well have confidence. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nominee, we take those 2 questions. The one to do with
Grove Jesus. Beginning from distinguished Senator Olujimi, first question on the death of patriotism in Nigeria. Distinguished Senator, I totally agree with you that there is a serious gap and absence of patriotism in many quarters in the country today. The first time I went to Israel, when I saw what the young boys and young girls were doing, beginning from the airport, staking their life, their strength, very little boys. In fact, in the course of my movement, I decided to give lift to some of them standing by the roadside and open discussion with them. I was amazed at the level of patriotism. These are people who value their nation and can die for their nation. I quickly asked myself, where are we in this game? Honestly, I agree with you that we have a big challenge in that area. But earlier on, as I watched over the screen, I saw certain questions bordering on curriculum in school. We need to revisit our curriculum beginning from the primary school, the kindergarten, and do teacher retraining and training and retraining, where civil rights, obligations, duties, what the state expects from us are not taught to the children. And the best time to push this into the psyche of the entire nation is from the primary school, the kindergarten. If we need to employ professors and let them go and start from that grassroots, it's better for us, because we are building skyscrapers on no foundation. And that is why communal clashes are becoming more pronounced, because people now focus more on selfish, personal, sentimental interest than the interest of the nation, of the state. It's a big problem, sir. I totally agree that it's a big problem that we need to address, and address holistically. I also agree that government has a role to play by way of policy formulation. And I believe that this president is passionate about this area. I was particularly fascinated when I heard the CV read on the screen of one of the nominees that was taken today, that he was a primary school vice teacher, this, that. I think he's someone that is close. Thank you. The second question is what I think about the percentage of women in the would-be cabinet. Distinguished Senator, I plead with you not to allow me comment on it. Simple. The reason is simple. I don't have the capacity to do the appointment. Mr. President had demonstrated in time past as one who raised many women and brought them into prominence. I give you one example. Professor Akunyili, vibrant woman, great achiever in several offices that she held. Who introduced her to limelight? She was a teacher in the classroom. It was Mr. President who brought her out, and that time he was beginning to diversify the PTF to create zonal offices and ensure that the benefits of PTF will reach down the states and local governments more speedily. And Mr. President then, who was then chairman of PTF, raised 6 women. All the zones had women as the coordinators. One of those women was Akunyili. And from there, she began to climb in her political career and so on and so forth, and she became a great name at national level. So Mr. President is in the process of fielding available offices. And I don't think that 35% affirmation action is only tied to either ministerial or governorship. Otherwise, we would have quickly, no, it's not only tied to ministerial. Thank you.
Mr. Leader of the Senate.
James Ocholi. He recently contested the APC governorship ticket in Kogi State, but lost to Abubakar Audu. Ocholi got a scholarship from the then Benue State government as a teenager, and this enabled him to go through and graduate as a lawyer from the University of Jos in 1985. He has proven that he is indeed a senior advocate of Nigeria.
Chairman, will you report progress, please?
Minority Leader.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I second the motion that the chairman moves back to the plenary. I so second.
Those in favor that we report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Senate in a committee of the whole has successfully considered 5 ministerial nominees this Thursday, the 22nd of October, 2015. And with the
The Senate, in the Committee of the Whole, resumed consideration of the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Federation, for the confirmation of nominees for appointment as ministers of the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The following nominees answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical national issues and their curriculum vitae. Chibuike Rotimi Amaechi, Yekini Lokobiri, Claudius Omoleye Daramola, Shehuri Mustafa, James Ocholi. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Further confirmation hearings on the other nominees deferred to the next legislative day. Announcement from the Leader of the Senate. The closing date for submission of MDG forms is tomorrow, Friday, 23rd October 2015. Senators are requested to submit the form to the office of the Senate Leader. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate is hereby adjourned to Tuesday, 27th October 2015 at 10 a.m. prompt.